Alright, so I've been finding my typical sneaker reviews to be a bit stale lately. Not only when it comes to views, but also just for me and when I'm making them. I've been finding it to just be an arduous task at times. In any case, I've been trying to think of ways to spice things up, and here's one of the many ideas that I've come up with, a top 5 sneaker rotation video for the fall. If you like videos like this one, aside from my typical sneaker reviews, let me know by dropping a like on the video. So the reason why I'm making this video is because I love the fall time. Not because of the weather cooling down being able to wear sleeves like this, but also just because it's the perfect time to pull out a bunch of sneakers that you normally wouldn't during the warmer weather. But before getting into the actual top 5 list, here are some honorable mentions that didn't make the cut. So right here that have been chilling in the back are my 2 pairs of OVO Jordans. This top one is the OVO Jordan Retro 8. And then underneath that is my pair of OVO Jordan 10s. If you couldn't tell, the commonality between these 2 pairs of sneakers is that they're done up in this sort of all black and gold colorway, which I think is perfect for the fall weather. It's funny because I just dropped a picture of both these pairs on Instagram, and it's sort of what sparked me to create this idea, yet they didn't make the top 5 list that I'm about to show you guys. And while I'm speaking of Instagram too, you might as well follow me on there. Stuff Dylan likes, post a bunch of random sneaker pictures like this, so definitely shoot me a follow over there. And then another honorable mention, or really just sort of a general honorable mention, is anything black and red or bread related. So you guys haven't seen a dedicated video on these, but these are a pair of Nike IDs from the past done up in this bread colorway. I also have the bread Jordan 11s that are deep in the stacks I don't feel like digging out. And I also just now hit on the bread Air Jordan 1 mids that shock dropped on the Nike app, not the sneakers app, but the Nike app. So definitely excited about those, and you know, you can't go wrong with the sort of black and red colorway during these fall months. So with the honorable mentions now out of the way, we could start with the very first sneaker on my list. And just to preface too, this list is in no specific order, it's just a top 5 list of sneakers that I'm wearing this fall. No specific order or favoritism tied behind it. But yeah, to start off, it's this Made in USA pair of New Balances, and if you couldn't tell, it's these. It's the New Balance 998 Made in USA in the brown sugar or curry colorway. Initially I was going to make this video of just top 5 sneaker silhouettes that I was going to wear, but in going through the stacks I came across this 998 that I had that I truthfully forgot that I had, and I pulled them out of the box and I remembered exactly why I bought them. It's for the fall weather. This overall chutney or brown color is just perfect for the fall. You think of like the leaves changing here in the east at least, or like, you know, just typical fall things like cider. This color sort of mimics all of that. Aside from the overall color blocking on here, the materials and quality of materials is just superb. Being a Made in USA New Balance, these things don't disappoint, and if you haven't experienced a pair of Made in USA New Balances, I definitely recommend go seeking out a pair just to see what it's all about. New Balance has been on the rise recently, at least in 2020 as far as hype goes. Back in the day, no one would give these things a second look. But you know, it's a sign of the times, trends are cyclical, and this just seems to be the time for New Balances, at least in 2020. Aside from being hyped up and having overall quality materials, they also have the comfort to back it. These heritage New Balance models utilize such an old sneaker technology, but for some reason it's still super comfortable and super stable, and I wouldn't mind having these on my feet all day. As far as wearing these things too goes, they're just so versatile. In my opinion, I think they probably look the best with some chinos cuffed up and, you know, let the shoes do the talking. These came out in what I want to say is 2018, so you probably won't be able to find them for retail on any storefront or at any boutique. But if you do some digging, maybe you could find them on eBay. And aside from these 998s too, New Balance have just dropped so many pairs this year, say like the 990 V5s, 992s, 997s, etc. You could definitely find a pair that suits you, especially for the fall. So next up, we have a pair of Yeezys, and specifically this pair of Yeezy 500s. So we've seen over the past few years now between the 350 and the various 700 models that they've been overproduced, many in earth tones, and you know, things like the 350 have saturated the market. But to me, the 500s have been like the silent assassins of the entire Yeezy lineup and, you know, are super underrated. Whether or not you think the same thing, I think most will agree that these are a real love it or hate it shoe. And personally, I love them. I'd even go as far as saying that this is one of my favorite pickups of the entire year. Having them in hand and, you know, when you see them on foot, these things are super chunky though. And while they do look chunky and massive and that might not be a look for you, you can't deny that that's sort of been the trend of sneakers recently, just that big and bulky look. The overall material usage on here too is good to keep your feet warm. So this specific stone colorway uses like this neoprene material throughout these various overlays, which is unlike the mesh that other 500s use. And to me, just the suede material screams fall for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. Oddly enough, I find these things to be super versatile as well. I think they look good dressed up in maybe say a pair of chinos, but then also when you're just running around town in some oversized sweats, you know, you really get those good cozy vibes from these things. If you're interested in grabbing these, I definitely recommend doing so ASAP because at least for this stone pair, resale prices aren't too bad. But the other 500 pairs, so like the salts and the blushes and the desert rats, those things are going up because it's been a while since they've released. So definitely jump on these while you can if you're interested. Next up on the list, we have Nike Dunks. So it's no shock that in 2020 that Nike Dunks, specifically SB Dunks, have been all the hype lately. I know for me personally, I've picked up so many Dunks this year, it's actually insane. This one too is sort of a cop-out because anyone can argue that Dunks are an all-season shoe, and you wouldn't be wrong. But if you've been like me and you've been stacking a bunch of Dunks in the collection, there's a big difference between summer-oriented ones, given the colorways, such as like my flamingos, and these, which have, you know, earthier, darker tones. I was going to highlight just one pair of Dunks, but in going through the stacks, I realized that I have so many that need to be pulled out this fall, and it's really because of the overall colorways. Colorways aside too, you can't go wrong with the 3 silhouettes. So obviously here I have an array of the lows in the Supreme variant. I have these mids, the Golden Hop GRs from like 2011. And then I have these recent GRs in the Desert Camo that I actually recently dropped a video on, so be sure to go check that out. And of course, how can I forget the ones that I have in hand, the Guinnesses. Of the 3 silhouettes, I probably prefer the highs, not only for the fall, but just generally because of the added ankle support. I know for me, when I'm wearing sort of shorter pants, the ankle coverage is super important because, you know, it keeps you warm. I know Dunks are pretty hard to come by nowadays, so if you could get your hand on a pair of recent GRs, or even track down some old gems like these, you can't go wrong with them this fall. Another sneaker that I'm wearing this fall is a pair of Air Jordan 1s, and surprise, surprise, these things look very similar to Nike Dunks. I'm not going to give you guys a history lesson on these, but just know that the Dunk and the Air Jordan 1 in its origin came out around the same time back in the mid-80s. Just like Dunks as well, the Air Jordan 1 is pretty much a cop-out as far as wearability goes. Depending on the colorway, these things can be an all-season sneaker, like this NYC to Paris pair that I have in my hand, or the Royal Toes that I recently picked up this year, both of which are super versatile, could be worn in any season. But I specifically wanted to highlight this pair of the Velvet Brown Air Jordan 1 highs from 2010 specifically because of the overall colorway. Much like the other sneakers that I've shown in the video, I might as well rename it to my top brown sneakers that I'm wearing this fall. Aside from the usual earth tones that you'd find in the fall, I think materials speak volumes. And you know, something like an oiled leather or a suede is perfect for these times. And just by how these things look, you could tell that they're meant for, you know, October, November, December, not so much June, July, August. The overall Air Jordan 1 silhouette as well just looks so good with some darker denim, and I think these do a good job in highlighting that as well. And I know these are from 2010, so this specific colorway is probably hard to track down. So I'd say recent ones like the Biohacks that I have are great for the fall, as well as the Mochas, which I missed out on. By no means is getting Air Jordan 1s easy nowadays as well, but they are definitely easier than getting Dunks in my opinion. And to round out this top 5 list, I have the Nike Foamposite 1. So the Foamposite 1 is a basketball shoe that turned lifestyle, and in my opinion of the 5 is probably the most boot-like. So I'd consider the Foamposite to be the perfect sneaker to pull out when I don't feel like wearing things like my Timberlands or my bean boots in inclement weather. And even depending where you are in the world, you might not even get snow or any sort of sleet or anything. So foams are great for that overall fall aesthetic. A commonality that these share with the other 5 sneakers is just the overall bulky and chunky look to them. And in that same vein, these things look great worn dressed up or down. Jeans or sweats, take your pick. It's interesting with foams because they come out with a lot of wacky and wild colors, but then they also have their moment when they have these one-off hit colors. So for example, I have these eggplants and then these coppers. And then more recently too, they came out with the Anthracites, which are pretty much an all black. Those things are sweet too for the fall. Like the Yeezy 500s though, these things aren't for everyone. It's a real love it or hate it shoe. I remember Foamposites had their moment in like the early 2010s when I was coming up in high school. And then they just sort of fizzled out after that though. You know, again, it's sort of the name of the game, and these sneaker trends are just so cyclical. But on a positive note, Nike seems to be bringing back a bunch of colorways and have slated releases for the next few years of OG colorways, so I'm predicting a huge comeback. So if you want to hop on the trend before these things get big again, I definitely recommend seeking out some old pairs because you could find some good deals. But really, that rounds out my top 5 list of sneakers that I'm wearing this fall. Again, it's a personal list. Your fall sneaker rotation may be entirely different. If that's the case, let me know what pairs you guys are wearing this fall. I'd love to read all about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video as well. Depending how this one turns out, I'll keep making different content and maybe even bring back other ideas like skip sneakers, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, if you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a thumbs up as well. Doing that goes a really long way in growing the channel. That's all for now though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.